Terry's right. They're going to have to figure out where they're going to come up with the money to do that. But they've committed to $50 million that goes to the improvement of Fountain Creek in Pueblo County. That allows us to have a crown jewel of a facility in Fountain Creek if it is used correctly. Colorado Springs Utilities is doing probably a pretty good job as far as the installation of the pipeline. They are almost complete with that pipeline in Pueblo County. They are now in the revegetation phase and doing the irrigation of the grasslands. And as I understand, the property owners have been fairly satisfied now with that element of the project.
Well, I agree. One of the things that we have in the conversations with the Citizens Advisory Group on the Fountain Creek is we have citizens from Pueblo County and citizens from El Paso County and Colorado Springs sitting there at the table. We've had a number of fascinating discussions and frankly heated discussions about this very topic. And what it has been, it's been a good education process for us, and it's been a good education process for them as well. But one thing that we've made consistently clear, there's not a single Puebloan that is involved in this process, from Mr. Chostner at the district board level down to us at the Citizen Advisory Group, that hasn't made it crystal clear. They got to pay for it. They got to pay their way. There are some complications. Pueblo West is tapped into this process too. So whatever we end up doing with Colorado Springs and the SDS project, we have to work with Pueblo West to make sure that they don't get harmed in the process. But they don't have the drainage problems that Colorado Springs does. The other thing that I'd like to point out is there is $50 million that's supposed to be spent on Fountain Creek. That gets spent over the course towards the tail end. Frankly, I'd like to renegotiate that and open it up so they do whatever the heck they got to do.
I would just like to point out one other benefit of the county commissioners being strong and keeping pressure on the Colorado Springs utilities is that the city of Colorado Springs has opened up their stormwater standards, and they are in the process of revising those even as we speak. Now, the benefit of that is by tightening up the detention and retention requirements of stormwater, that has the ability to benefit us in the future much more than even the money that we would be spending here in Pueblo. So we have Colorado Springs' attention, and quite frankly, that's good. Go ahead.
Dan's absolutely right. They have been in the process of drafting new stormwater standards, and actually we're very pleased with that. We've been working with them on that. But the interesting discussion that you have with staff there is talk is cheap. You can go ahead and put all kinds of things on paper. You've got to have the political will to back it up. And frankly, that's a pretty tough thing to do. Some of those standards are dealing, or most of the standards are dealing primarily with where we're headed with new development in the Springs. That's a good thing. We do need that. And Dan's given us some of the list of the things that they are talking about doing, the retention and stuff. That is pretty critical. But one thing that we consistently point out to them is you already got a problem. You've already got a problem of a lot of runoff coming into our creek. You're bringing pollutants into our creek and dirtying up the water, and you're flooding our creeks. You're tearing up the land of the folks that live next to it. So you have to tighten up your political will as well and stop what you're already doing in addition to pinning down what you're going to be doing in the future. It's a good point. I just want to expand on that a little bit.
Okay, Dan, you'll handle this one next. Are there any other areas of county government that could be merged with the city government in order to save money and avoid duplication of services?
One of the things that Pueblo County and City of Pueblo governments need to be very careful or cautious about is, as they look at the consolidation of government services, is being extremely intelligent in how they do it. And let me use the prime example of when the merging of the Emergency Dispatch Center, the 9/11 centers occurred. That was, quite frankly, not the most intelligent merge to happen. I do believe there are some opportunities. In the past, there have been purchasing department merging, and now that has fallen apart. So I think that it's important, especially as we continue these economic times, lean times, if we're looking at reduction in services at all, the first thing we want to do is look to gain economies through the combined services of city and county government. What those may be, the report that was done, my goodness, about 10 years ago was a very detailed report and I think it was the 2010 Commission at that time that did that report that made specific recommendations to the policy makers. The key to that is simply to have the political will to implement those recommendations.
Okay.
Oh, I love this topic. Frankly, I'm a member of the governance task force of the 2020 Commission. It was the 2010 Commission when that report that Dan pointed out came out. And it's a superb report. A lot of folks put a lot of work into that, a lot of sweat into that. And when you look at the report, and frankly, I would challenge everybody who's running for office or challenge everybody who's currently in office, get a copy of that report and take a look at it, because there's a lot of wisdom in there. What it literally says is, look at, here's all these areas of duplication that we have that we as taxpayers are paying for on both sides. We pay for them as a city taxpayer and we pay for them as a county taxpayer. And it doesn't make any sense. There's lots of things that we can do to cooperate with each other. Dan's absolutely right pointing out the dispatch center. I was looking out the room. I can't see with these lights because I don't know if Sheriff Taylor's here. He's probably going to kill me when I say this. But he and I talked a few months ago about the dispatch center again and his thought about possibly putting that back on the table again. I've talked to some city councilmen that are currently serving, and they have talked about it as well. When we put together the dispatch center, and frankly, it's not one of my proudest moments, I was part of that. We drafted that. The discussions behind closed doors were, we are setting this system up to fail. Every one of us on the city side, everybody on the county side knew it would fail. But we didn't have the political will to do it right. And it was incredibly frustrating. We set it up, and by gosh, exactly what we thought was going to happen did happen. And so you couldn't say, I told you so. It was just a crying shame. We can revisit that. We can revisit things like purchasing. Yeah, we've done some sharing with purchasing. I don't think that we do enough. I think that we should have two purchasing departments that run a joint warehouse, or possibly even ultimately a consolidated purchasing department that runs a warehouse, and we as government officials, we pull our supplies from them. We can do things on assisting each other with roads and maintenance and repair, and we can also do some things to assist each other from a law enforcement perspective. If we're having something that's going on with the county, we're a little weak in one part of the county, we can call for assistance from our friends with the city. It's a great idea. I'd love to see it.
You know, I think it's interesting that we have standing right here Chief Billings and Sheriff Corsentino. Quite interesting the parallel of those two individuals and the cooperation that they exhibited for years in jointly handling law enforcement issues in this county. And that's the type of cooperation that we need to continue to nurture and support as elected officials.
Yeah, I agree. I've been behind the closed doors. It's easy to talk about what we ought to do. Man, I'll tell you what, it's tough getting a backbone with folks to get it done. But I'll tell you what, I've had a lot of opportunities to work, cajole, do everything I can to help other elected officials hopefully come to the right conclusion. I would love to be a county commissioner where I can bring a little more pressure in the nature of the budget on these kind of issues. I'd love to do it.
Okay. Okay, Terry, you'll handle this one first. What specifically can the county do to attract more private sector jobs?
Well, I talked a little bit about expanding our and enhancing our economic development efforts. I believe very strongly about that. Frankly, I love what Pueblo did in the early 1980s. When I was doing the lobbying work in Denver and other work in Denver on behalf of the county in the earlier parts of my career, it was a lot of fun to go to Denver and talk about what we had done here. We were so proud. We were faced with 18, 19% unemployment in this town, and we got ourselves pulled out of that by our bootstraps, forming a single process through PEDCO, and we really did a good job. I think we did a good job. I think we still do a good job. But frankly, I think that we need to move on a little bit. I think we need to evolve that a little bit. We, in those days, were in a statewide economy, to a degree a national economy, but definitely a statewide economy. Today, we're in a world economy, a global economy. It's a highly competitive economy. You've got to be working all the time. You've got to be massaging what you do. You've got to be trying to develop new ways to do new things. And frankly, I would like to see that done. One of the things that I would like to do is not only find out from our business community what they think is the best thing that we can do in order to attract new businesses and what we can do as a government in order to assist that process, but I'd also like to expand it to the businesses that we already have here. The big businesses, the medium-sized businesses, and the small businesses. Folks, small businesses is where the majority of the jobs in this town, this state, and this nation come from. And my thought is whatever we can do to help them, we should find out and help them. Now, don't get me wrong, I do not want to interfere with the flow of money that we've got going towards primary jobs. That's critical. We have to have those primary jobs in place. That's the system we have in place. I just think that we need to build onto that, roll up our sleeves, and find out what we need to do, get the job done.
I think primary jobs are absolutely critical to the health of this community. Obviously, my past 3 years, I've dedicated my entire life to creating new primary jobs in Pueblo. I think the relationship and the establishment of PEDCO and their role in this community needs to continue to be enforced and enhanced. One of the dangers that I personally observed was when companies were looking at some of the fighting that was taking place between the county commissioners and the city council and asked me the question, what is going on in Pueblo? This was a company looking to move here that was concerned about the relationship between governmental bodies. So that's one of the key things that we have to bring is that we're all pulling this wagon in the same direction. The second thing is we talk about economic gardening a lot. Many people throw that term out, but they don't know what that means. Economic gardening is the means to help entrepreneurs, and we saw this at PEDCO. On a monthly basis, someone would come in with a good idea of a product that they're willing to produce and create primary jobs, but they don't even know how to make a business plan. They don't know how to deal with regulations. They don't know where information. They don't know where to deal with the workforce center and all of the things that they need to do to start a business in a community. And economic gardening is the means that an individual is dedicated to putting together the chambers of commerce, the scores, the legal, the financial concerns, and the business plan concerns to help those individuals get started in business and create those jobs in Pueblo, Colorado. The third thing is we need to have a business-friendly regulatory environment. We have heard time and time again of the bureaucratic process and the regulations that people have to go through to do very simple things, from the 55 pages of from the Debbie Rose's research for the hot dog stand that they have to renew every single month, to the individuals that I just heard this week, they want to put in a very simple a tower associated with a cell phone tower in their backyard, and the hoops that they have to jump through to accomplish that.
I'd kind of like to tackle that a little bit in reverse order. On the regulations, I hear that quite a bit. It's a bit of a mantra that's out there. And I don't disagree with that. My gosh, my thought is let's go ahead and say specifically which regulations that we need to take a look at. But we need to make sure that we're looking at them correctly. You can't just go ahead and say, gosh, let's go ahead and blow that away, and then ignore whether a regulation might have been put in place for safety purposes for some reason or health purposes for some reason. So it's pretty critical to make sure that you understand both sides of the equation of why the regulation came into place. But you also have to have an open mind. You have to take a look at the rule of practicality. So